Hey everyone, and welcome to Mrs. Ross Does Math. This is for Algebra 1B, and our lesson today is on factoring trinomials in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. This is for chapter 8.6 out of our textbook. Today we are going to be focusing on factoring trinomials again in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, and our goal is to ultimately explain as part of our essential question how we factor them and how can we solve for them. So that will be the focus of our assignment today. Now, we have gone through in previous lessons and learned how to factor trinomials like x squared plus 6x plus 5. When we were solving for those, we used our x out method to find our factors, where we put the 5 up in the top of our x like this, and we put the 6 in the bottom, and we find the two numbers that multiply together to give us 5. But add together to give us 6. We're going to use that same method here, but we will have one step we need to take before we can use that. And ultimately, we will do that when we're factoring trinomials where our x squared has a number or a coefficient attached to it. And the method we're going to use for that is called slide, divide, bottoms up. So once again, it's slide, divide, bottoms up. Now we will use slide, divide, bottoms up when the degree of the polynomial is 2. Meaning, in our problem where it says ax squared, we want to pay close attention to that squared. If it says 2 as our degree or as our exponent, we can use this method. We're also going to use this method when there's a coefficient or a number in front of the x squared. That is this little a right here. That is our coefficient. That's going to be our number. Lastly, we're going to use this method when there are 3 terms in our problem. That's why it's called ax squared plus bx plus c. There are 3 terms in our polynomial. Now, when we're solving these, previously we would have just the c term up in the top. What we're going to do instead is we are not just going to have the c up in the top, but we're also going to have the a too. So what we are actually working with as our equation is x squared plus bx plus a times c. So once again, we're going to have the b in the bottom. I was about to say denominator. Could be a denominator. In the bottom of our x out method, and the a and the c will be together on top. Now, as this is called slide, divide, bottoms up, when we are solving these, our first step to factoring success is to slide the a and multiply with c. So again, I'm going to slide my a over to the c. And I'm going to multiply those two numbers together. Second, we are going to factor using the x out method. So this is a method you guys are familiar with. And lastly, we're going to divide our fractions. We're going to divide, and we're going to reduce any fractions that we have, and then we're going to bottoms up on it. And I'll explain a little bit more about what it means to bottoms up in just a moment. Okay, so what we're going to be doing next because you're probably having some thoughts of, oh goodness, what is she having me do? We're going to go ahead and do some practice problems together. Now our first practice problem is this: 5x, I don't know why I said 5, 2x squared minus 3x minus 9. Again, that's 2x squared minus 3x minus 9. Now our first step in this is to slide the a over and multiply it with our c. This is our a, this is our b, this is our c. So I'm going to slide my a over and I'm going to multiply it with c. So the equation I actually have is x squared minus 3x minus 9 times 2. Now I need to simplify the 9 times 2, so I actually have x squared minus 3x minus 18. Now I'm going to do my x out. So I'm going to put the negative 18 on top and the negative 3 in the denominator. Now two numbers that multiply together to give me negative 18 are negative 6 and positive 3. And they also add together to give me 3. And I can show my work on the side by going negative 6 times 3 equals negative 18. And I can also go negative 6 plus 3 equals negative 3. So what that means is that my problem, the numbers inside of my parentheses, are going to read x minus 6 and x plus 3. So now we've slided, meaning we've slid the a over to the 9. We've factored. Now we're going to divide. Now when we divide by the a. So since 2 is a in our problem, we are going to divide each one of the factors by 2. Now, when I go x, or in this case, 6 divided by 2, I get 3. So I'm going to have x minus 3. Now, here I get x plus 3 over 2. I can't divide 3 over 2 and get a whole number. So this is where the bottoms up comes into play. I'm going to bottoms up the 2, and I'm going to move it in front of my x. So what I actually have in my second parentheses is 2x plus 3. So again, I slid my 2 and combined it with the 9. We factored our problem and wrote it down. We then divided by the 2, which was the a in our problem. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 divided by 2, that can't happen, so we moved the 2 up in front of the x. Now this will be our final answer, x minus 3 and 2x plus 3. Now if you're unsure, always double check your answer. So I'm going to set up my box on the side. I'm going to have my x and my negative 3. The 2x and the positive 3. When I multiply this out, I get 2x squared. I get negative 6x. I get 3x. And I get negative 9. Combining my middle terms together, we get 2x squared minus 3x minus 9. This was our original problem. They match, so therefore, this is our final answer. Now, just in case you're a little confused, we're going to go ahead and go through and do another problem. If you have absolutely no idea what we just did, please re-watch this problem before you move on to the next one. So feel free to pause this video at any time. Now the next problem we are going to do is 4x squared plus 22x plus, plus 10. Once again, we're going to slide, divide, bottoms up. I'm going to begin by sliding the 4 over to the 10. That's going to give me x squared plus 22x plus 40. Because again, I'm going to go 4 times 10. Now, I'm going to factor my problem. 40 will go on top, 22 down below. The two numbers that multiply together to give me 40 and add together to give me 22 are 2 and 20. 2 times 20 gives me 40, and 2 plus 20 gives us 22. So from here, I'm going to set up my problem and go x plus 2 and x plus 20. So we've gone through the process of sliding. We're now moving on to dividing. So I'm going to divide the 20 by 4 and the 4 under the 2. 20 divided by 4, that's nice. We get 5. So I'm going to get x plus 5. Now again, over here, my 4 and the 2, they don't cleanly give me a whole number. And again, we only want whole numbers here. So I'm going to move the 4 and I'm going to bottoms it up in front of my x. Now when I do that, that's going to leave me with 4x plus 2 inside of our parentheses. Now once again, if you have any concerns about your final problem, please go through and check this. So I'm going to check this over on the side. (4x times x is 4x squared. X times 2 is 2x. 5 times 4x gives me 20x. And 5 times 2 gives me 10. Combine my middle terms. Once again, our numbers match. So 4x plus 2 and x plus 5 are our final answer. Now, the final component of your assignment that you'll be starting throughout this week and working on is solving for the x's as well. So we are going to go ahead and begin by factoring 4x squared plus 38x plus 70, and now that's equals to 0. Now the only thing that's going to change with this problem is once we have figured out what our factors are, meaning what is our 4x plus 2 and our x plus 5, we're going to set each one of these parentheses to 0. So to begin with, I'm going to take my 4 and I'm going to times it by 70. Now 4 times 7 is 28. I'm going to add a 0. That gives me 280. So I'm going to have x squared plus 38x plus 280 equals 0. Now this one's a little bit more difficult, so I'm going to start out by setting out some factors along the side that give me 280. Now obviously I don't want to start with some really small numbers. I'm going to start out maybe in the 5s. So 280 divided by 5, that's going to give me 56. So 5 and 56, that's still really far apart. Now, any number that ends in 0 can be divided by 10. So 28 and 10 work to give me 280. Hey, 10 and 28 can add together to give me 38, but they can also multiply together to give me 280. So we're going to go ahead and start there. So we're going to have x plus 10 and x plus 28. Now, once again, that's going to equal 0. We still need to go through and divide and bottoms up if needed. So I'm going to divide by the 4, which was at the start of our problem. Now, 28 over 4 is 7. So we get x plus 7 equals 0. And again, we're going to put that in parentheses. Now over here, we get 10 over 4. Now 10 over 4 has the ability to simplify. When it's simplified, it becomes 5 over 2. So I get x plus 5 over 2. But like I said earlier, we don't want any fractions. So I'm going to take the 2 that's here, and I'm going to bottoms it up. And that's going to give me 2x plus 5 and x plus 7 equals 0. Now what we've done here by simplifying this is we've gone through and created numbers that we can go ahead and use later on to find the zeros of our problem. Meaning what numbers, when we plug in for x, will create a 0 equals 0 situation. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set our x plus 7 equals 0 on one side. Alright, got to move things over a little bit. So x plus 7 equals 0 on one side. And I'm going to have 2x plus 5 equals 0 on the other. I'm going to minus 7, so that gives me x equals negative 7. Now here, I'm going to minus 5, giving me 2x equals negative 5. And I'm going to divide by the 2 remaining, giving me x equals negative 5 over 2. What that tells me is that in solving this, my answers for x to create a zero-based equation are negative 5 over 2 and negative 7. This is our final answer. Now, we've done a version of this in the past, so if you have any questions, please go back through and look at your notes for chapter 8.5. We also went through and set some problems equals to 0 in that chapter and in that section. If you need any additional problems, any additional assistance, please leave me a comment down below so I can go ahead and best help you. This is a new system to all of us, and I really want to be here for you in any way I can. Obviously, I can't be there for you in person at this time because of this coronavirus, so I want to do everything I can from safety of my home and the safety from your home to be able to help you in understanding this concept. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to either send me an email, send me a comment down below, or communicate with me through the Remind app. Again, thanks for watching. This is Miss Ross Does Math.